Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited you're hanging out with us today because we're talking about something absolutely amazing. Reading the Bible isn't just about memorizing historical facts or like checking a box on a to-do list. No way. It's actually about getting a complete 100% heart makeover. When we really truly understand what we're reading, it literally changes us from the inside out. So let's just dive right in and see exactly how that happens.
Now, I want you to imagine trying to read your absolute favorite book, like an awesome action-packed adventure story, but with the lights totally off. You're squinting, you're just kind of guessing what the words say, and honestly, you're probably missing the very best parts of the story. Well, today, we're going to explore how we sometimes do the exact same thing with our own hearts when we read the Bible. We open the book, right, but our internal lights are still switched off, so we totally miss the biggest adventure of all.
To fix this whole reading in the dark problem, we can't just try harder to see. We need to jump into Section 1, putting on special glasses so we can finally see clearly.
There's this really cool verse from the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 18, that talks about the eyes of your understanding being enlightened. I know, that sounds like a super big, complicated sentence, right? But what it actually means is just turning the lights on in our minds. It's exactly like flipping a switch in a dark room so we can finally see how much Jesus really loves us. Without these special glasses, without that light officially turned on, we're really just staring at blank ink on a page.
This is what we call using our eyes of faith. And when we use these eyes of faith, we aren't just staring at boring words anymore. We're looking right into the heartbeat of God's amazing story. We stop just reading about random places and old names, and we start seeing the greatest rescue mission ever planned, Jesus' love for us. You know how you put on 3D glasses at a movie theater? Suddenly, the whole screen pops out and becomes totally real. It's just like that.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, head versus heart knowledge and the different ways we can read. Because there are two very different ways you can read the Bible, and here is the kicker. One of them totally misses the whole point.
On one side, we have reading the Bible like it's a science textbook. Imagine you're studying for a big test on, say, bugs or rocks. You just memorize the facts to get an A, right? But our source text tells us that if we study the Bible just as a branch of human science, just to memorize facts for a test, we completely miss out on its real beauty. We miss its amazing power to save our souls. The Bible wasn't meant to just stuff your brain full of trivia facts. It was meant to completely change your heart.
But hey, there's a huge warning here. The text actually warns us that sometimes we treat the Bible like a poetic fancy, which is basically a fancy way of saying a made-up fairy tale. And when we do that, we're basically building a giant shield right around our hearts. We're saying, oh wow, that's a nice story, but we don't actually let it touch us. But get this, the Bible is described as a sword that is meant to cut away our selfishness. If we just treat it like a harmless fairy tale, that sword definitely can't do its job of chopping away our bad habits and selfish ways.
So what happens when we finally do see Jesus' love with our new eyes? Well, something wild happens, which brings us to Section 3, giving up the steering wheel and entering the school of Christ.
The text tells us that by grasping his promises by faith, we enter what's called the school of Christ. Now don't worry, this isn't a school with like surprise pop quizzes and super boring lectures. Not at all. It's a school where we learn how to be humble. First up, we see his amazing rescue, the atonement, which is just the taking away of our sins. Second, seeing that makes our hearts feel super grateful. And third, because we're overflowing with gratitude, we make an entire surrender. That means we hand over the steering wheel of our lives. We literally say, Jesus, you know the best way to go, so you drive.
When the reality of how much he sacrificed finally clicks in our heads, our hearts just want to shout out in pure excitement. The source text actually says the believer exclaims, "Oh, what love, what condescension." Now, condescension here just means that Jesus, who is literally the king of the universe, stooped all the way down to our level just to save us. I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing when you truly see it with those new eyes of faith.
So, what exactly happens inside of us when we finally hand over that steering wheel? Let's look at the actual mechanics in Section 4, the ultimate heart makeover, or divine assimilation.
It's an incredible three-step process described in our source. Step 1 is having the heart emptied of self. Just imagine your heart is a cup filled with muddy water. That mud is our selfishness. It's got to be completely dumped out first. Step 2, the waters of life flow in. God takes that clean, empty cup and fills it right up to the brim with his amazing living water. And step 3, we become changed into his likeness. The human part of us is assimilated, which means completely absorbed and transformed by the divine.
We actually start acting, loving, and thinking way more like Jesus.
And guys, this isn't just some tiny little change. It's not like slapping a fresh coat of paint on a broken car. No, it is a 100% transformation. The text explicitly states the human character is changed into the divine. It's a complete top-to-bottom makeover from the inside out, turning our everyday, normal human character into something truly beautiful and totally divine.
All right, let's wrap this all up by looking at what happens after this massive heart makeover is finished. In Section 5, shining like a mirror, reflecting glory.
The real secret to keeping this amazing makeover going strong is what the text calls perpetually looking unto Jesus. Basically, that just means constantly keeping our eyes fixed on Him. And when we do that, the glory of the Redeemer reflects right off us. Think of it like taking a super shiny mirror, catching the bright sunlight and bouncing it right into a dark corner. When you keep your eyes on Jesus, you become that shiny mirror. You reflect His light, His love, and His kindness to absolutely everyone around you. At school, at home, literally everywhere.
Honestly, I think this might be the most beautiful part of the whole text. After all His suffering, after everything He went through on that wild rescue mission, what is His actual prize? Well, the text says, Christ looks upon His people in their purity and perfection as the reward of all His sufferings. Jesus looks right at you with your newly made-over heart, and He says, "You are my ultimate reward. You are the exact prize He was fighting for all along." I mean, how incredibly cool is that?
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to grab those special glasses, those eyes of faith we talked about, and ask yourself one super important question. Who is reflecting in your mirror today? When your friends, your family, or your teachers look at how you live, how you share, and how you love, are they just seeing a reflection of your own selfishness, or are they seeing a bright, beautiful reflection of Jesus? Keep looking at Him, let Him hold on to that steering wheel, and just let His light shine right through you.